Today I'm gonna be analyzing your iRacing hot laps. This hot lap that I'm about to show you, this guy, he could save at least 1 second with the tips in this video. And he makes the same mistake in almost every corner. Here is turn 1 at Watkins Glen. Okay, so here's my analysis on the corner. Let's move that to the side. Everything was fine before the red line. So over here, all good, perfect. But then after this red line, he just completely messed it up. First of all, this is a small issue that I want to talk about, not the main thing, but he's holding 1%, 2% brake pressure after he goes on throttle. I don't know if you guys can see it, but I can definitely see like 1%, 2% right now. So yeah, just don't do that. It's a really bad habit. And the next thing is with his steering. This is what his steering telemetry would look like. I'm not going to talk about the inputs though because they're pretty good, only the steering. But the main concern here is his steering. Let's take a look at that in the steering graph. And you probably don't know how to read it, but it's fine. I'm going to show you guys. But first, let's cover this little topic or sort of thing. I talked about this a lot in my "This video will make you a faster driver" video. Right now though, I have a mission for you to do, and it's related to this. Go on a straight anywhere, Nürburgring straight, Centripetal circuit, the straight on Spa, on Silverstone, whatever. It doesn't matter. And then go to 10 miles per hour. And just weave the car. So weave side to side. And then do the exact same thing but at your car's top speed. So just weave like this, like this. Now go do that. I'll wait a second. You can pause it. Okay, I don't know if you did it or not, but that's fine. This is what your weaving would look like. At 10 miles per hour, you would weave a lot. Your car has a lot of rotation. You're easily able to go from side to side. But at top speed, your car, it barely rotates. It takes you so long to reach here. You went from here to here. From the middle to the right, it took you this long. But from here, it took you like this long. So, what am I trying to say here? Speed is opposite to rotation. The more speed equals less rotation. A really high top speed and very little rotation. And more rotation equals less speed. So, more rotation and he has less speed. And this is what the guy in the hot lap is trying to do. He's asking for more speed by going on the throttle, but he's also turning the steering wheel more. I'm going to show you guys the same steering wheel telemetry. So this is the steering. It's 0-0. He starts braking a little bit and then he starts turning. He goes a bit fast here, and then he holds it 90 degrees to the right after he goes on throttle. Here he even reaches like 91, 92, 93 degrees. So he's asking for pretty much the same amount of rotation, if not more. So asking for more rotation, but with the throttle applied, he's also asking for more speed. That's just not gonna work out. He's over the limit of the front tires and he's absolutely destroying them. This is what a more optimal steering graph would look like. So he turns in over here. It's a pretty linear amount. He doesn't like change the steering speed a lot. And the moment he starts applying throttle, he starts unwinding the steering, because here he has a lot of rotation. His speed is really low. He just braked and he has a lot of steering. So a little bit of speed with a lot of steering. And now his speed is increasing. So his steering should be decreasing and going back to 0 degrees. Also, going back on this a little bit, he should have unwinded his steering by a lot. So over here, he should have started going up here, because let's take a look back at turn 1. He turns way too much, and he's not using all of this room here, because on the red and orange curbs, you only need 2 tires on them to be considered within track limits, but he has all 4 tires on them. So he's missing out on so much track room. Like, it's honestly insane. Now let's continue on with the lap. I'll 2x this part. Here he should have upshifted. I don't know why he didn't upshift here. But this next upshift, he's actually doing it right because he's going into the bus stop, which looks pretty good to me. And now let's go here. Next turn. Oh, that's the wrong speed. Okay, next turn. Here he overslows the car. He's at around 10% brakes, and to be honest, you only need like 6 to 4% brakes here because he's overslowing the car. It's way too slow here. And then he's using all the track, but the car is able to not use all the track. Let me explain. Right now he's overslowing the car and getting rotation that he does not need. Because overslowing, and then back on throttle, the car has too much rotation and too little speed here. So this is what he's doing. His speed is low, like really low, and his rotation is high, but he doesn't need the rotation, he needs the speed. So he's under the limit there. And let's continue. Here he does the same mistake with the steering that I talked about earlier. Increases the steering, asking for more rotation while applying throttle. So he's asking for more speed and rotation. Let's continue. Here he makes the exact same mistake. Asks for more rotation and speed. Speed this up a little bit. Okay, this corner he really messed up here. He didn't do the thing which he normally does. Look, as soon as he starts applying throttle, he starts unwinding the steering, which is actually good this time. But he's so under the limit here. I'm gonna show it to you guys. Okay, this is what he's doing in this corner. He misses the apex by a bit, which is not good. But more importantly, he's not using this room here. All of this green is within track limits. He should be using this. He's over-rotating the car and just turning too much, scrubbing the fronts, and just not utilizing all the track. Instead, he should have taken a line something like this. So he hits the apex, but he gets on throttle really early. Because getting on throttle really early, what it'll do is that it'll just punt your car outwards here. And this, remember, it's within track limits. So he'll just go outwards, be all the way on the edge, and then come back on the track. And he'll be able to carry more speed through the corner, saving him more time. Okay, let's go over the rest of the lap. Here, I don't think you needed to lift fully here. You hit the curb, which kind of messed you up. I think you could go 20, 30, maybe 40% throttle here, and you'll be fine. You just don't hit the curb. This curb, let's replay that again. That little bump that messed up your rotation. Here looks pretty good. And then last corner, you're not trail braking enough, and you're doing the same mistake with the steering and throttle. You're turning too much. And you also hit the curb here. I forgot to mention that. Don't hit the curbs in these types of corners. You need to be as close as possible to the curb here without actually hitting the curb. And yeah, that's the whole hot lap. Hope this helped you out. Okay, let's go on to the next hot lap. This one is the Mazda Mx5 at Tsukuba. In this hot lap, I'm only gonna talk about track usage and nothing else. Also, if my PC sounds like a jet engine, I'm really sorry about that. I have iRacing open in the background and it really can't handle it. So let's begin. This is turn 1. I'll let you guys take a look and then I'll say what's wrong here. Okay, first of all, you don't need to be turning in this early. Let's say you're braking at the perfect time, like the most optimal time here. You're turning in too early. I was pointing at the screen, but you can't see it. But there's so much room here. You don't need to be turning in this early while you're starting. And then here, you don't hit the apex at all. No late apex, no early apex, or no middle apex. There's just no sort of apex here. This corner, personally, I would late apex, so it would look something like this, where you hit the apex really late, and so you have a better entry. You sacrifice that entry for a better exit. And the last thing I wanted to talk about, the track usage. You can fit another car here. You're not using all the track. And I know this isn't track usage related, but it's the same thing from the previous lap. Asking for more speed and also asking for a lot of rotation. That's not gonna make the car turn more. That's gonna scrub speed. Now let's go on to the next corner, but before that, I have to ask you a question. In this corner, what racing line would you take? This is not a trick question. I'm just asking normal racing line. Like what sort of racing line would you take? If it's something like this, you're right. That's the pretty standard racing line. Nothing really wrong with this. Now, let's see what this driver does in this corner. Okay, so this thing I drew here at this corner, it's the exact same one as this, which is this corner, the one the driver just took. Now, if we take a look at this line, what do you notice right here? Right here where my mouse is, exactly in that spot. What do you notice? What I notice is that the car is parallel with the track and it is on the very edge of the track. This guy over here, he is not parallel with the track, so when he starts braking right here, he is not parallel. The car, let me go in another view, it is pointed straight towards the inside, and you don't want that. And the next thing is, you're also missing out on a lot of track usage. You don't want to go on this grass, but your right tire, right front should be right over here or around that area. This corner, it's a really tricky corner because you see this left area, you're like, okay, left, and then you're going here, and you're not turned in enough. Okay, so this is what I want you to do in this corner. Stick to the left completely, like glue yourself to the very edge of the track, okay? And then you should be completely glued here, okay? Right now you're not glued. And as soon as this green part goes away, so right where my pointer is, you want to start turning in here. So if you're here, you can easily go the car here and you'll be straight. But if you're here, you'll have to go like this to be straight. You notice the difference? I'll draw it out for you guys. Okay, so this is what it would be like. If you glue yourself here, keep going, and then turn in here, go straight, and that is really easy to do. My drawing is not the best, but you get my point. Just imagine the line was straight. But right now you're here, and it's much harder to turn in like that. On the green line, you're giving yourself more room and time to turn in. On the red line, you're turning in from here, which is a really awkward angle. So stick to the green line, and then as soon as this curb ends, start going to the right of the track. You'll have a much better entry for the corner. Now let's focus on the rest of the corner. You did not really hit the apex. You could have gone a bit closer. And here, the steering, you almost never want to steer that much. That's over 90 degrees of steering, and it's way too much. And same mistake with the steering and throttle from the other guy's hot lap. More rotation and more throttle, you're over the limit. And because of that, you're not using all the track. Right here, if you, let me see where you peaked, let me see where you started applying throttle. So right here, you started applying throttle. If you slowly unwinded your wheel so that when you reach 100% throttle, you're on 0 degrees of steering, okay? So imagine that happens. You would be much closer to the edge. You might even be over here, in fact. So you want to unwind the steering as you apply throttle. If you've watched any of my previous videos, you might have heard of the grip points concept that I've spoke about earlier, and you would understand this. Okay, next corner here, Track usage on entry looks pretty good, but you did not need to fully lift here. Here you could have gone, I promise you, I've never drove this track by the way, but you could have gone 40, 50, 60. If you're pushing it, maybe 65 or 70% throttle here, and you didn't need to lift. All you have to do is just attack this curb. Like, think of it as your worst enemy. Just try to drive all over that curb. Okay, looks good, looks good, looks good. You didn't need to come that wide. Next part, okay, entry here looks good. But you carried too much speed here and you early apexed, and you also didn't use all the track room. You do not want to early apex here because right after this corner, there's a really long straight and then a super high speed corner. So don't early apex here. Take a similar approach in turn 1 where we did a late apex sort of approach. Okay, I'm noticing the same mistake with the throttle and the steering, but this is track usage, not inputs. Okay, here use more room on exit, carry more speed. Okay, entry, there's a whole car here. You don't have to turn in so early. And again, this isn't track usage, but trail brake more. You shouldn't be playing with your throttle like that. And you're also not confident enough in the throttle because, or not confident enough in the car because look, the car, it isn't even touching the curb. You only need 2 tires on the curb to be considered within track limits. So slowly experiment by carrying more and more speed through the corner. And yeah, that's the whole hot lap.